go unnoticed in classrooms that are just bursting at the seams. We need to have positive changes to our educational community, and we need those changes now. Thank you.
So now when you contact your legislature, I want you to remember that story. Talk to them about what you heard. Talk to them about how that troubles you and how that's not good for the future of our schools. Karen Sullivan is our next speaker. Karen is a paraeducator and school assistant from Fernwood, one of the largest overcrowded schools in the North Shore School District. Karen is going to share with us the challenges facing our classified brothers and sisters that are in NSEA. Karen.
All right, thank you. My name's Karen Sullivan. I work as a school assistant and a paraeducator at Fernwood Elementary, where I've worked for 11 years. It's time, Washington State, to fund our schools, lower our class sizes, and provide more staffing, and to fund our compensation. I'm on NSEA bargaining team, and we've had 4 negotiating sessions in the past couple of weeks, and more are scheduled. There are 480 of us in the North Shore Educational Support Professionals Association, NSEA, our WEA local, excuse my Boston accent. We are paraeducators, we are school assistants, we are school nurses, school tech specialists, and the others who assist our teachers and serve our neediest students. We are professionals, and we are proud of our work and our school. Here are some facts. 3 out of 4 of us either support ourselves or provide essential income for our families to pay our rent, our mortgage, to send our kids to college. I have 3 of them in college, or to get benefits. We don't work for coffee money. We work because we need to, like most of you. Almost 1 in 3 of us work a 2nd or 3rd job to make ends meet. Almost half of NSEA members are kept at or below 20 hours per week, so we don't get health benefits. North Shore doesn't do that. Boo, you're right. North Shore doesn't do that to any other group of employees. It means that over 225 of us cannot earn what we need to, and we get no benefits. Except for the nurses and about 2 dozen other employees, our average pay is just below $18 per hour. For a full-time NSEA member at 6.5 hours, that's a take-home pay of about $1,400 a month, and less after we pay for benefits. For those of us who are lucky enough to work 4 hours, it's less than $900 per month, and that's not enough to live on, and not enough to contribute to our families. This low wage and low hours of employment model may have made sense about 40 years ago, when 1 income could support a family. But today, it takes 2 incomes to support a family, and 2 decent incomes. We need to change North Shore's employment model to update it and to bring it into the 21st century. We need decent pay and enough hours to make a living. The state's recommendation for our salaries, based on a study done by the state comparing education employees with others outside of education, recommends about $6 more per hour. That's for all of us, including paraeducators, school assistants, and nurses. The state does not fund any North Shore salaries at the level recommended by the state, at the level that's needed. The state underfunds our compensation, and this is important. North Shore supplements other employee groups with enough levy funds to bring their salaries closer to the state's recommended levels. But North Shore School Board and administration chose to supplement our pay very little. We are treated differently. So this is what we're trying to achieve in our negotiations right now. A phase-in of the state's pay recommendations, the opportunity to get more hours, and we're trying to partner with the district to update its employment model for the 21st century. We want adequate professional development so that we can do our jobs better. Adequate funding from the state legislature would make this a lot easier, and that's one of the reasons we're here today. We hope to see all NSPA and NSEA members at the joint membership meeting on Tuesday, June 2nd at Inglemoor at 4:10 p.m. We'll decide what to do next, both in our negotiations and to get the legislature to do what's right. Thanks for your support.
Let's hear it for NSPA again. Our next speaker is an English teacher at Bothell High School who would like to talk to you about the overuse of standardized tests in our schools. Her name is Jody Lineman.
Hi, I'm Jody Lineman, an English teacher from Bothell High School. I have taught for 27 years. I am here today to talk to you about standardized testing. Every year before any standardized test, I tell my students, you are not defined by a test. I tell them when they are at the end of their lives, they will not look back and remember the AP exam, the IB exam, the end of course exam, the WASL exam, the HISPE exam, or the SBAC exam. They will remember their family, their friends, and their experiences. They are not a number. They are a complex human being with many gifts, gifts of humor, intelligence, curiosity, creativity, and compassion. We tell our students that their actions speak louder than their words. Their gifts speak louder than a test. And yet, we keep trying to define our students with not just one test, but many tests. Education began as an attempt to create good citizens who could participate in a democracy. This is still our goal, but it has become so much larger. We now teach so much more: abstract thinking, argumentation, cooperation, tolerance, beauty. In math and science, we teach about the complexity of our world, an intricate and stunning universe. In history, we teach about the past to influence the future, a past that has seen hardships, triumphs, joy, and despair. In foreign language, we teach through a different lens, a lens that can impart an appreciation for the differences in all of us and the beauty in those differences. In English, we teach students not only the stories of men and women, but the struggles of those men and women and their own personal journeys, hoping that these stories will lay the foundation for our students' personal journeys. How can a test measure such complexity? How can one snapshot, or even many snapshots, tell the story of a human being? We are blessed with many talented and intelligent students, students with multiple talents and multiple intelligences. Some of these students perform well on tests, and some of them do not. Just this last weekend, I watched a performance of a senior in Mary Poppins. He played Bert, the chimney sweep, a man who had more wisdom and joy than the successful Mr. Banks. I find it ironic that this student played a role that portrays who he really is, and yet he struggles academically. If this student had to pass the SBAC to graduate, it would be a struggle, and that one number would deny him the opportunity for a diploma. That one number would deny him the recognition of his gifts and talents. As a sophomore teacher, I would spend enormous amounts of time preparing the students for the WASL and the HISPE. I understand that I may have been teaching to the test. Of course I was. It was a high-stakes test. It was about the students graduating from high school. It was about their futures. As a junior teacher, I lost 7 instructional days preparing my students for the SBAC, even though they did not need to pass it to graduate. As a mother, I chose to opt out my own daughter. I opted her out because she had an IB exam, a biology exam, and an English paper. She is also knitting hats for the homeless, creating a cookbook, and running daily for her CAS hours. She may have performed well on this test, but that number would not have defined her. We are concentrating our efforts in the wrong area. When we use precious classroom time and tie those results to a high school diploma, we are missing the larger picture. The picture of a child, your child, my child, all children. Numerous exams cannot be the litmus test to determine whether a student is college and career ready. We need to recognize the entire student, the student with multiple intelligences. Students are complex, multi-dimensional human beings, and tests cannot begin to measure this complexity. No one can be defined by a number. Not you, not me, and most importantly, not our students. Thank you.
You didn't see the King 5 report last week. North Shore's opt-out rate crossed the 40% mark. I have no idea what it stands at this week, but each week the number continues to grow. Our next speaker is Ann Davidson, math teacher at Leota Junior High, who's here to discuss teacher evaluation and the attempts to tie student test scores to those evaluations.
Thank you, Tim, and thank you, Jody, and to each of you who are here today to support the students in North Shore. For those of you who aren't familiar with John Oliver in the show last week tonight, he does a great segment on standardized testing. I recommend you see it. And I'm pretty sure the Funky Monkey is not showing up here today. I know you're aware of Senate Bill 5748, if not by name, then certainly by what it calls for, which is tying some portion of our evaluation to statewide standardized testing. And for what purpose? Does the legislature expect that tying teacher evaluation to test scores will close the achievement gap? Many other states already know that it will not. Do they expect to attract excellent teachers to schools with high ELL populations, classes with inclusion models, or to the profession at all? They will not. Do they expect us to trust an evaluation system that relies on English language arts and math scores to deem the art, band, or health fitness teachers proficient? We will not. The students and parents and teachers in our state, and especially here in North Shore, have powerful voices. We are here today because we have the right to stand up for ourselves and the duty to stand up for our students. It's time to stop talking about ineffective ways to measure teacher effectiveness. It's time to lower class sizes. It's time to acknowledge the challenging work that teachers do with respectable pay. It's time to fulfill the paramount duty of the state of Washington and fully fund education.
What time is it? Our next speaker really needs no introduction. She is by far the best ally for public education in our state legislature. She is the state senator you fought diligently to defend just a couple of years ago, Senator Rosemary McCollum.
Well, before I begin, I must say the sun came out when Kim was talking, but now it's clouding over. Maybe there's a message there. Maddie, I want you to come up. And I'd like this little girl right here to come up. And stand right here, because this is what it's all about. And I like Madison's shirt because it says what? never defeat. And take that message with you and keep doing what you're doing because that's what's important. I'm going to give you this. Thank you. It's time for our teachers and our kids, right? Well, thank you all for being here because you have a voice. And if you don't speak up, no one will listen. You've heard year after year after year that you have sent letters, emails, messages to the state legislature, and still we do not have a stable and equitable funding system for our schools. Still, we do not have an adequate compensation system that attracts the best and the brightest into our field. We are down about 400 candidates in teaching today because of the fact of what we are requiring more tests, we're requiring more kids in our classrooms, and we're requiring evaluating teachers with test scores. And what are we doing? We're not really recognizing that if you want to close the opportunity gap, if you want to help our kids lower class size, do less testing, and pay our teachers and our educators a fair and professional salary. So why are we here? I've been around since 1993, and I was there when we did 1209, Redefine Basic Ed. I was there for Washington Learns, and I was also there for 2261, which again, Redefine Basic Ed. And what did WEA say at that time, and what did I say at that time? You can redefine basic education all you want, but if you don't fund it, you haven't done anything. And that's where we are today. Now let me tell you though, we need your help. One of the reasons that we are here today and that we are not fully funding our schools is because we cannot pass a tax that the voters will not reject. We did the water tax, we did the Coke tax, we did the cigarette tax, and every time we pass a tax, they come in with a referendum and take that tax away. So it doesn't help the legislature if people don't know that we're going to fund education and we're going to use our wealthiest high-income earners to pay their fair share. We need a capital gains tax. And my message to you is be sure that all of the people know, because if we have enough courage in the legislature to do this, we cannot have them bring forward a referendum and take it away. So, no, I didn't even follow my notes, so where am I? So it is time to lower class size so our children can have the individual attention that they need, as Madison as well laid out for you as well. I have 15 grandchildren. Thank you very much. Some of them went to North Shore School District, and they're very successful. They're all employed. One is a nurse, one is a physical therapist. They were kids that struggled. They had learning disabilities, but you helped them to succeed. So I want to thank you on behalf of those grandchildren. I have now some grandchildren who are 5 years old and all the way up till about 14 in our schools. My 7-year-old granddaughter goes to Kendall Elementary in Mount Baker, Washington. And I will tell you, it is one of the poorest schools there are. The Bellingham School District tries really hard, but there's no counselor, there's no nurse, and there's no one else there to help those kids with their emotional issues. We need nurses. We need counselors for our kids. The House budget offers a COLA and a super COLA. That's not enough. The Senate budget takes away from our homeless community, it takes away from housing, it takes away from many of the projects that we care about. It keeps our families whole and safe and our children fed. That's not enough either. We need the wealthiest of the wealthy to help us. And we need them to fund education. So I'm going to agree with Madison here. Tests do not define our children. And I have introduced it, I will be introducing a bill next week to take away the high stakes test. It's time. have confidence in our teachers, our educators, our principals, and our superintendents. They care about our kids. They want them to succeed. Let them determine what is a graduation requirement and do that locally. I also want to thank you. Thank you for marching. Thank you for having a voice, for rallying, for speaking up. I'm proud in each and every one of you. You know, I once wanted to be a teacher, but I took a test and it was so discouraging, I didn't get there. So I'm a politician instead. Thank you. And thank you all.
Maybe it's time for the legislature to take the S back. Our last speaker today is John Vandy Mortel from North Shore Junior High.
Wow, no one told me I had to follow Rosemary. I would ask for something else. Let's dispel one myth right off the bat. Teachers are not against being evaluated, right? Tim mentioned collective bargaining. You may hear a hint of collective bargaining in this, but not much. Our current evaluation framework, when properly utilized, allows the world to see the complexity of our jobs and allows them to see the expertise with which we undertake them. We're used to being evaluated, right? It's not a problem. We're evaluated for establishing a culture of learning, for our communication with students, for engaging students in learning, for our questioning and discussion techniques, for our reflection on our teaching, for our knowledge of our students, for our flexibility and responsiveness, for demonstrating our knowledge of content and pedagogy, for setting instructional outcomes, for demonstrating our knowledge of resources, for the coherence of our instruction, for creating an environment of respect and rapport, for managing classroom procedures, for managing student behavior. I'm not done. For organizing the physical space, for designing student assessments, for using those assessments in instruction, for maintaining accurate records, for communicating with families, for participating in a professional community, for growing and developing professionally, for showing professionalism, for establishing, implementing, and monitoring student growth goals. Why not my blood pressure, my breathing, and my cholesterol? Now, why would I share this comprehensive list? Well, part of it, maybe you up front can see I'm rocking my Wisconsin hoodie and my lovely wife stenciled in learning from Wisconsin, Value Village, $2. So we've got very hardworking colleagues in Wisconsin. And let me tell you, they use the Danielson framework in Wisconsin as well. But here's the vast difference. Only 50% of their professional practice goes to their evaluation. What do you think the rest of the other 50%? Student test scores. 50% in Wisconsin on their professional practice, the other 50% on their eval, student test scores. Oh, no doubt. Then they worked hard, man. They worked hard to keep that from happening, and we have to continue to work as hard as we're working now. So just to put that in another way, you could be a distinguished educator on all of those indicators, but if your students don't do well in standardized tests, you're deemed a failure in the state of Wisconsin. So for the most part, we've been using logic and reasoning to kind of battle back bills and candidates who have Wisconsin-esque ideas, for the most part. But despite that logic and reasoning, right, there are some legislators right now led by Scott Walker wannabe Andy Hill. Don't kid, no doubt. That deserves a good boo. That we should have student test scores in our evaluations. So anyone familiar with rudimentary science knows that if one wants to have confidence in the results of his or her testing, variables need to be controlled. And as educators, we have some control over the big 5 variables: time, instructional strategies, materials, environment, and personal energy. Those are kind of under our control to a degree. But what we don't control are the myriad variables that affect students' performance. We don't control our students' prenatal care, life experiences before age 2, exposure to stress, exposure to negative influences, exposure to violence, experiences with racism and sexism, reading in the household, positive interactions in the household, depth of conversations with parents, parents' education levels, parents' job status, personal or familial expectations about education, poverty levels, sleep, nutrition, peer group, transients, extracurricular activities. You get the picture. Student test scores have no place in teacher evaluations, not now, not ever. Thank you.
I don't know if you remember in 2012 when we had our emergency membership meeting before the election. I don't know if you remember what John did at that rally to a collective bargaining agreement. Every time I put him in front of a mic, he gets this kind of response. He shredded the contract last time and you guys just went berserk when he did that. Our last speaker today is probably the most important person here, a parent. Now I have to tell you, he's also the husband of a North Shore special education teacher. His name is David Cogan. Please, welcome David.
Hello everyone. Thank you. Hello North Shore teachers, paraeducators, support staff, families and students. You aren't in a classroom today, but I'm seeing a great lesson in civics. You've decided it's time. You've decided it's time to alert our community to the fact that our state legislatures have failed to fund public education as mandated by the Washington State Supreme Court. Your one-day walkout sends a clear message. You agree with the Supreme Court. Unfunding public education is unacceptable. Thank you, Tim and Craig, for allowing me to introduce myself today. My name is David Koch, and I am running for North Shore School Board. Thank you very much. My 2 children attend North Shore schools, and as Tim mentioned, my wife has been a teacher in this district for more than 20 years. And what you do each day makes a profound impact in the lives of our kids. I'm pleased with the quality of education my children and the kids in our community are receiving in the school district. And it's in great part because of your talents and your commitments. Thank you. Thank you, teachers. The most critical factor in a great education is a great teacher. And I'm running to support you to maintain the things that have brought us to this level and produce these successes and to minimize the distractions from teaching and learning. I'm running to provide a supportive voice for teachers on the school board. I ask for your vote, I ask for your support, and I ask for your help. Thank you very much.
So we got a little work to do. Today is not the end of our fight. Tomorrow, you'll return to your classroom and resume the same dedication to the education of your students that you show every single day. There are things that we need you to do, however. Contact your legislator today or tomorrow with the message to provide stable, adequate revenue to fund our schools. On Tuesday, June 2nd, at 4:10, please put that on your calendar. We will be gathering at Inglemore High School. If the state legislature fails us again, we may have to be back in the fall, doing this all over again in a bigger way. We don't want to do that. That's what today is about. That's why we're here, to encourage them, the legislature, the state Supreme Court, do the right thing. It's Beautiful. Continue to encourage your friends and neighbors to call the legislative hotline, write letters, talk to others, explain to them what we've been trying to do year after year after year. If you picketed this morning, thank you. If you want to do it again this afternoon, come on out. The sun's going to be out and it's going to warm up and it's going to be a beautiful afternoon. If you are picketing this afternoon, you need to report to your locations by 2:30. Picket captains, you need to swing by the NSEA office and pick up your materials. As you leave here today, please talk to others as you walk away. Tell them the story about underfunding our schools. Take just a minute as you leave. Pick up around you. We do have a crew of people that's going to pick up, but be the good, responsible educators that we are and pick up after ourselves just like we teach our kids to do each and every day. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for you turning out today, for picketing, for this rally, but more importantly, for what you do for students each and every single day. It's